Hello, 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 and welcome to Bleav. That's Bleav in Lions right here on the Bleav Podcast Network. And as always, I am joined by the mayor of Detroit, third round pick, three-time Pro Bowler, 32 and a half NFL sacks. That's Jerry Wreckin' Ball. How's it going, Jerry? How was your day out on the course?
Hey man, we did pretty good out there today. My group we shot, I think they told me it was like 17 under, so no
Ooh.
win tension. Yeah, it was a scramble tournament, for what's down here is the Texas Bowl, and they had a golf outing day for the Texas Legends, and this year they inducted me as a Texas legend. I think it's 93 of us and stuff. So, had a good day. Yeah. And look, man, it was a great day too. I mean, the weather was nice and it was festive, and just a good day to be out. How things been for yourself and stuff? I know how our weekend was on Sunday, but
Yeah,
other than that, how was your day?
day was pretty good. It's always a new day. It's always a new week, and even with the Lions not coming in too strong this past weekend, it's a new day. It's a new week, and there's always something to celebrate there. And
Yep. Yeah,
we
well,
won't.
I don't know how much celebration or what type of celebration, but,
We can
but
cel we can celebrate a good week of practice ahead. How about that?
oh man, the object is the game, not the practice. Allen Iverson said, "Practice, practice."
You're talking about practice.
Yeah,
Well,
talking about practice. You
all right.
know.
Maybe
All
we
right.
don't maybe we don't celebrate the practice then. Maybe we celebrate our friends over at BetOnline AG. How about that? Does that work for you?
Hey, that's a better option for us anyway. Matter of fact, it's a better option for anyone that wants to bet on football or basketball. They should definitely get bet online and give it a try. It's better than any of the other ones you're using.
It absolutely is, and it is the best place to bet on the Lions. Yeah, even if it didn't work out the past week. But anyways, Bet Online AG is back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of basketball season. And more props, more odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code Bleav50 to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. And I almost wish that this game didn't start with this 34-11 loss. And we lost our bet with Adam Pac-Man Jones and Solomon Wilcots, our friends over on Bleav in Bengals. So we got to get some gift cards. And I got to admit,
Yeah.
it hurts a lot.
Well, listen, it definitely stings and stuff, and in no way do I ever want to extend you on a bet, and with those gift cards and stuff, I'm gonna try to call a couple people over there and see if we can't get them. But I tell you what, it was a good, as they would say, a good effort bet. I was trying to ride with the home team.
I was right there with you. I think it was the right decision. It just didn't pan out, and that's okay. That happens. Dan Campbell said in his press conference, they didn't do anything right, and I tend to agree with him. Focus wasn't there. He blames himself. He says that's his fault. Coach says when you get whooped like that, it's a reflection on him. Do you tend to agree with that?
Well, for sure, he definitely has to take responsibility as a coach. I mean, a coach is the one that's supposed to prepare the team. He's the one that's gotten the other coaches in his system that's supposed to articulate a game plan that gives them the best chance of winning. And then each coach work within its unit to make sure they understand the assignments and the alignments. And then from that, they come together in a coordinated effort again with the coaches, whereas the defensive coordinator now puts forward a scheme and how we're going to play. So now we all get the picture of how we're going to play. But it all starts with the head coach, and then it goes down to the other coaches. Those guys, it was, I would say, it was a game that I didn't really think that they were potentially a good team, tell you the truth, especially from an offensive standpoint and some of what I've seen in breakdowns and stuff, but we'll talk about some of that as we, get into it. But, it definitely starts with the coach. And I will say this and stuff, and, and I've been, quiet about the time that Coach Campbell cried, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the emotion, right? I could feel it, right? But at the same time, you're motivating men, right? And every man is motivated by different incents. Some of it can be visual, some of it can be quiet, some of it can be raw, some is by example. What he has to do is figure how to get his team around him, because the crying part of it can start looking like the WWF, whereas it's more performance. And then, then you start questioning, okay, is he the guy? But the real people that have to trust him is those players in there. They're the ones that have to really understand where that passion, that emotion comes from. But in front of the public, he needs to show his poise. He needs to really be poised because everyone else is looking at that.
And it seemed like last week it was the tears, it was the frustration, it was the sadness, and this week it was almost anger. He was frustrated after the game. He was angry. It was a little bit of a different tune. Do you think that's kind of inconsistent then, and that kind of makes the locker room start to question things a bit?
As I've said before, this is a new coach. They're in a new system. They inherited a personnel that may not have fit their actual scheme. So in giving him time and teaching points and things like that, that's one box, right? But over here in this other box that you're talking about, okay, there is, some things that I would say as a head coach of an NFL team, some of the, I don't want to call it Harry High School, and I don't want to really, marginalize the emotion of it, because you see, some people are emotional. There's things that make me emotional, and when I get emotional, I'm mad, and when I cry, I'm gonna hit you. Okay.
Hopefully, I never make you cry then.
Well, hey, listen, listen, I've learned how to leave the room or whatever, or walk off the field, or talk to the ref to make sure he understands. Now, if you don't go over here and take care of that, I'm going to take care of that, But as a coach, though, just in real seriousness, coach has somewhat of a disposition, and I'm going to say of Matt Millen. Okay, because it's the same type of, energy, emotion, and raw. You want to win, you want to knock down the wall and everything, but sometimes you don't need to use dynamite when you could have used some scissors, right?
Ooh.
All right, and coach has a dynamite approach, and even with one of the downs that when he went, it was I think 4th and 4 early in the first half, and he goes for it. Now that didn't make sense. That was emotion. That wasn't coaching.
It felt like a pent up frustration. It's like we have to get this now.
Exactly, because he wanted to give them a reinforcement that they could make it happen, right? But now you're playing a game within a game that's really psychological. The team that you played last week that stopped you on 4th and down is one thing. These guys here have a different emotion. All right. So they revved up to go and ready to answer your bell. All right. Now, again, it seems that he's wanting to be gutsy as a coach, right? You know, these 4th down tries and stuff. At some point, though, he's going to have to get his team to execute, you know, and then that'll take care of a lot of the emotion. He won't have to say, you know, it was, and man, I hate being long-winded in these type of chats, but I'll tell you just how on teams that I was on in the pregame, I would say this to the locker room. Every man get his man, and every good man get two. Don't wait on tomorrow morning to go look in the newspaper to read what you can take care of today. So let's go out here and write our story. Every game. That's what I said. Because that's what mattered. That day, that game. Don't care what they're going to say in the paper. We can write the story today. All right? So when Dan comes and says those things, and he's talking after the fact, he had a chance to write the story. He needs to be able to make those adjustments. They didn't do well in making their adjustments at the halftime. But anyway, I know we got some other areas to, things.
Don't worry, you can check me. I got goosebumps here. Listen to that speech.
Hey, that's what's in me. Love it. That's what's in me. You know.
We'll move on to the Bengals real quick. Joe Burrow, he's just too good, man. Like 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 to tight end CJ Uzomah, 1 to running back Chris Evans, 1 to running back Joe Mixon. Add another 4 grabs, 97 yards from Jamar Chase, and 8 minutes left in the game, and Joe Burrow doesn't have to play anymore. That's how good he was. It's upsetting being that out of a game. And so any takeaways from watching Smokin' Joe?
Well, if I could just talk about that offense as a whole.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah, I was probably on one of the most potent offensive team, which was the Minnesota Vikings in 98 when we go 15-1. We had 3 receivers and we had 2 running backs and we had 2 quarterbacks, right? Mm-hmm. That's how Cincinnati. Now, the guy Joe Burrow definitely is a player, all right? And he's going to get better because, early on when you're a rookie quarterback, the game is still kind of fast. But when it starts slowing down like it does for Tom Brady, okay, this guy's going to be something special. But I must talk about these running backs, man. Mm-hmm. They got a great 1-2 with Evans and Mixon. And, Mixon himself reminds me of Marshall Faulk. He's built like him. He looks like him in the uniform. He works well in space, but he got that nice herky-jerky, meaning that he got good moves, and they're always going forward. A lot of times people make their moves and they bounce. When he makes his moves, it's always at an angle that keeps him perpetually going forward. So I like that in his running style. And then when it comes to the receivers, for half and stuff, we slow Chase down. Okay, but those other receivers were making plays. So from a standpoint of an offense, they're very potent. And if their defense can truly, play everyone like they played the Lions and keep them down, they're a hard team to beat. They will be a hard team to beat. But they're also in a conference where they're going to have to play their best football because Pittsburgh is not going to lay down. Baltimore isn't going to lay down. And Cleveland is definitely there to try to prove something.
And you said it last week when we were talking to Solomon and Pac-Man. This is probably the best division in football. We just got unlucky having to cross over with the AFC North this year, but that's show business. You just got to live with it. And so, like you said about those running backs, 125 yards rushing, 108 yards receiving, 233 yards to the running backs. Yeah. that's demoralizing to me. What does Jerry Ball think about that? And did anything like that ever happen while you were patrolling the line?
Yeah, I remember one game. Barry Ward stitched our ass for 200 plus yards. And it was like it was nothing we could do. Now, I'm having a good game, but a good game don't mean a hill of beans. When a running back that ran for 205 yards or something like that on a defense, you go down with the ship, right? All right, so I've been in one of those in that game. That's the only game I've ever been in where a guy, no matter what we did, it just seemed like we could not. He was breaking runs after getting hit, but they were bouncing on us. But anyway, long short, you know, the defense, as young as they are, some of them, that was a real test for them. They played okay, but they're pros. So I'm going to hold them to the pro standard. And the pro standard says you get your man. There ain't no excuse. You tackled him, you covered him, you blocked him or not. The film don't lie. Because when they're in film and the coach has that red dot on the play and they keep running back and forth and he's not saying nothing, he's showing you where it broke down. So there's going to be a lot of red dots on some of the film reviews where guys will see where they broke down. And I would well, go ahead. We'll get to the offense. I want to talk about something that I've seen too with the offense.
Yeah, well, and back like what you said, you can have a great game, A gap completely plugged. Doesn't matter if they're bouncing it off tackle for 200 yards. So it's not all bad on D, like we can talk about here. Like Amani Oruwariye, he has his third pick of the season. That's pretty impressive. Julian Okwara, he has his first sack, has a hit in a hurry. Austin Bryant, second sack of the year. And Aleem McNeil, he gets his first hit of the season, takes Burrow down. Do those guys get any credit at all? Or do we just have to say, hang it up? No, this was a loss overall.
Well, every week they should make improvement, right? Okay. And when you're talking about making improvement and stuff, you got to use some measurement of yourself. Did they play better than last week in some areas? But did they play better as a defense than last week? They did not. Mm-hmm. So we might have, again, one or two players that are playing good or making plays. But at the end of the day, it's the people that, that are going to show up day in, day out, every play that makes the most of the opportunity. And those guys, I can tell you they were trying, but at the same time, that offense was a little much for them.
Yeah, it really was. And part of that, they did end up having that starting right guard, Jackson Carman. We talked about he might have been out with COVID list. He ends up playing, but he's dealing with an upset tummy, allegedly from Mom Spaghetti, that new M&M restaurant there in Detroit. So I know Jerry would be messing with a rookie with or without food poisoning. How did you deal with rookies early on to let him know who's boss? Did you what'd you do there?
Well, all right. It's not really a boss type thing, All rookies on all teams will be hazed, just like in college, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the type of hazing that might take place. We've taped guys to chairs and we've shaved heads. That might happen. We've poured, the whole cooler of water on a rookie and then taped them outside on the goalpost in the winter. Yeah, we've taken rookies' shoes and we've frozen them in an ice bucket while we're at work, so that when it's time to go home, he would have to thaw his shoes out.
Oh, no.
Now, if you want to get deviant I'll tell you the deviant stuff.
Of course.
We would take look, we'll take icy hot, and then we'll take one of the tongue, the pressers when they say and we'll scoop it in, and then we'll push it all the way to the tip of their cleats. So when they put their shoes on, the socks is going to absorb it, but he won't feel it until he's on the field. So his feet is hot.
They're sweating, they're burning, and then it gets cold real quick.
Hot, and everyone kind of will know what's going on. So everybody be waiting on him to, start doing the little fire dance.
And that's what you do to toughen those rookies up, so when they do face a Jerry ball on the defensive line, they can handle it. Is there anything?
Well, they can handle it. I handle it, but you see, I use reverse psychology. You see, one of the things, the real deal about the hazing in actual team building, it's actually showing a level of humility. And with humility, you can actually lead, right? But if a guy wants to be a part of the team, he's gonna get some of what everyone has went through. I don't care who you are, all rookie, every class goes through this. And then the real first thing that they do to really see these other things happen after they see that you don't like doing it. And this is the first test. The first test is when they ask you to sing your school song at the meal table, whereas all the players are there, the coaches are there, and they start tapping on the glasses. That means some rookie needs to stand up and sing his school song. And what would happen is that every time they tap the glasses, I would stand up and start singing to the point that they recognized that I wasn't going to be embarrassed to do it, that they would tell me, "Ball, sit down." And they left me alone the rest of the year. The guys that didn't like to do that, that's the ones that got their shoes froze and got taped to the goalpost, because it was, like, hey, you like everybody else now. Don't think we can't all jump on you.
Well, and I'm sure it was pretty easy to get up there and sing. You probably have a beautiful singing voice as well. I've heard that you might actually be a baller as well, a hooper, according to some of our friends on Twitter.
Hey, no doubt. Oh, I got a nice little ball game before my knee kind of got messed up with that chop block. I got a nice game. I still can shoot it. I don't dunk it and do a lot of the running, but I can shoot it.
Yeah, there was a Twitter thread that was started by @Archabomb or Archambault3 on Twitter. Mike Archambault, who he says hi, by the way, Jerry.
Tell him I said hello.
Will do. And they had some Lions fans sharing their thoughts. So someone mentioned that you're a baller. You used to be able to dunk it and then just wreck offensive lines. And then also heard from @Bushwood_C that every time you got one of your many sacks throughout your career, the entire crowd would chant, "Ball sack, ball sack." Is that true?
Yeah, well, they would say ball sack, but the thing that they would actually, my nickname was Icebox, right? And it was either Wrecking Ball or Icebox that would really be what's said in the stadium. And I tell you, man, one of the greatest feelings and stuff. It's nothing. I'm sure other people have experienced great things in their life, but one of the best feelings I've ever had is there in the Silverdome and in the Metrodome in Minnesota, with everyone calling your name, and you in the middle of the field, and it's unreal. It's unreal, and they, holding that. I was like, it's one of those things, like, you caught up in the emotion of it and you still got to play, but, it's a real acknowledgement, that goes with that. And I appreciated the moments too.
Oh, I bet. Again, goosebumps just hearing about it. But so does that make the next play harder or easier to kind of like on the field? Does that get you hyped or does that get you distracted?
Oh, no, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. You know, you gave me a shot of adrenaline. You know, now it's like having a rocket booster or a nitro pack put in my back now.
Maybe the Lions could have used that, especially on offense. Now we can finally get to it. Scoreless at halftime for the third time this season, Jerry. It took until the fourth quarter before they put any points on the board. Like, what is going on there? Like that's got to be an angry halftime.
Well, I tell you, it's disappointing. You know, one because um, again, they're pros and they have to go about their job, and he's there to move the ball efficiently, right? And he just didn't. To me, Jared didn't show the efficiencies. He didn't show the poise that even if a quarterback is flustered, he still maintains a level of poise. And you know, by not having any points at halftime, you know, that's a Debbie Downer. That's for sure.
Very much a Debbie Downer. Like, it sucks because there was 10-0 at halftime. It could have been a game still at this point, and then the entire third quarter scoreless as well. So I'm sure it was an angry halftime. Have you ever been a part of those angry halftimes, or is it more silent angry?
Oh man, listen. Well, I could tell you this: locker rooms have many war stories.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time. Shit, I could tell you things with the Lions, but I'm gonna tell you one with Bill Belichick. All right. So this is the Lions and the Browns work a trade for me in '92. So I'm on the team with Belichick, which is his first team. He's the head coach, and we're playing San Francisco on Monday night, and we end up beating them on Monday night. But this is what happened. So right at halftime, Bernie Kosar comes up to the line, and we were on the 40, and it was one of those plays where Bill was trying to prove that he was an offensive-minded coach, so he was calling plays. So when Bernie comes up to the line and the receiver, Michael Jackson, sees the cornerback come up and press him, well, Michael Jackson ran a 4.29, 4.31. So right off, Bernie knows the guy can't run with him. So they check to a 9 route. A 9 route is a goal. Mm-hmm. It goes for a touchdown. So halftime comes, and I'm telling you, Belichick is, he riding Bernie up and down the wall, sideways, upside down, inside out, and then we had to go back out. They never, ever, ever got a chance to talk to any other players or make any adjustments. A whole halftime with Belichick telling him, don't you ever, the next day, it's about 12:30. We have to be in at 1 o'clock when you're a veteran. It started training room at 8 in the morning. So that morning, all the rookies, so it's about 12:30. I'm coming in. I'm about to go get some ice before we go into the meeting. I'm going to just ice my legs and stuff while we're watching film. Bernie's coming down the hall, and he's shaking everybody's hands, and he says, big fella, man. He say, man, it was an honor to play with you, man, and just watching what you do, man. You know, I'm like, man, what are you talking about? He say, man, Bill cut me. Now you talking about a guy that started the night before on Monday Night Football, and we win the game. And when he checked the play, the play actually goes for a touchdown. We won that game. I think it was by some margin that we needed the touchdown to win the game. And he cut him the next day. So not only does that halftime get volatile, it's people lose their job by halftime.
Oh, no kidding. Well,
yeah.
I hope and I don't think any Lions lost their job today. Are we closing in on that kind of era?
Well, I would tell you yes. I mean, honestly, when you 0-6, you got to look at every player that's on the board that's available to try to make your team better. If the Lions isn't doing that, then they need to fire everybody right now. Honestly, if they're not looking for better players right now, you got an offensive line that's hurt. You got a secondary that's kind of patched. So there are some holes to fill. So you got to always be looking for talent and people that fit your scheme.
And that kind of brings us to our next topic. Big fragrance guy you are, Jerry. I know you're going to be doing some fragrance reviews over on Real Talk with Jerry Ball, that YouTube launching later this month. And so I got to know, are there any Lions that stunk it up and need a fragrance recommendation from Jerry Ball?
Yes, there is. And it actually goes and segues into this play, right? I have different levels of fragrance. We got a more affordable fragrance, and then we got the designer fragrances, and then we got the niche fragrance. When you're in the niche category, that means you're a playoff team and you're a world beater. The designer level, you're actually, a good football team, but you're trying to define yourself, right? So I'm going to show you some that would be at the designer level. Right? Like you look at this platinum Eagle Chanel. Can you see that?
I can, and that looks beautiful.
Let me line it up.
Yeah. Oh, there.
All right. So that's designer. So I need the Lions to get that good. I need them to get alluring with this Chanel Alluring Sport Extreme or some of this John Paul. But none of them can earn the right to wear that. This is for winners. Dior, Home.
Winners like Jerry Ball, right?
Alvadijo, Profundo. But today, we're going to go with an entry level because the Lions really need to try to enter the winning category. So what we have is one of my old favorites. It's called Burberry Touch. Now, the reason why I chose this one is because the Lions need to be touched by an angel and get a win. Now, this is a very nice fragrance, and I think it'll help the offensive line and the rest of them. That's nice. Might even get a compliment or two, those that know what I mean.
Oh, I love it, Jerry. Absolutely fantastic. So the offensive line, they're getting the fragrance, or just the whole team?
Well, actually, the offensive line is getting it, but it's one play, the reason why. And it's really the whole offense. That was a play where it was motion. If you're looking at our offensive line, it would have been they went to our left, their right. But they ran Hawkinson back across and had him blocking the defensive end, and the rookie didn't know to check back to help him. And if the coaches did not give him that responsibility to help the tight end block that defensive end, then they stunk it up, and that's why they need to be touched.
Well, hopefully the offensive line will be touched by Burberry and touched by an angel this coming up weekend.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, does anyone deserve to be Jerry's baller of the weekend when you have a performance like that?
Well, I'm regretfully going to have to tell you that the player of the game probably would have been number 28 if I had to choose it for the Bengals. I feel that he actually kept the pace different that allowed Burrow to actually succeed because you had to stop that guy. And Evans wasn't no slouch, but 28, he's special. So I would have said he's the baller of the game, but he's with the other team, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to abstain from choosing someone this week, and we'll we'll go to this week and see if we can't find us somebody.
I think that's the wisest decision here. I think after a performance, you don't burn the tape because you got to learn from it. But we're not celebrating after something like that. And even still, we have the play of the day. Do we got to punt on that as well? Is there any highlight performance that we saw, highlight play? Because it's a lot of negative memories in my mind.
I would just say again, the only thing positive was that the Lions team made it to the stadium for the kickoff.
Oh, it's sad, but it is true. And that's why,
that's regretfully I'm saying that, but they showed up, but they didn't get it done. Yeah. And they were at home too. So
yeah, it's just embarrassing in front of the home fans. And usually, I go into this whole J&J, Jack and Jerry, PB&J. Can't even do it because it's frustrating. And it's not all bad on offense. Like TJ Hawkinson, he has 8 grabs. He has 74 yards. DeAndre Swift, he's 18 touches, 67 yards and a touchdown. Like, it's fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we were talking about getting him more involved in the deep game. He has 5 receptions, only 26 yards, and that's just kind of a symptom of everything going on in Detroit right now. It's all dink and dunk from Jared Goff.
Well, I think, in some of those passes to St. Brown, I could see why he went to him as that second and third option. But honestly, it's going to take them to really put in some different type work. They can't actually go through the routine of practice. They're going to have to take meaningful steps in practice, even to the point that you run your plays full speed. In practice, we go normally about 75%. But when you're trying to get your offense and the tempo time right, that means that you need to try to execute it as fast as you can in practice so you see what it looked like. And you do it, but you also setting a standard. All right? And when we run this play, this is the standard. That means the timing change. That means, like, in some of those balls that might have came out a second late has to come out quicker because he's going to be quicker in his break. And they didn't really get the timing down at that speed because now you at game speed and you just been practicing. You hadn't been doing things meaningfully and getting better and understanding how fast it's going to come. And it's some extra work that they need. Receivers and that quarterback, they have to stay after practice. They got to look at film together. When they're actually looking at the defenses of the other team, they need to have, like the quarterbacks and the coordinators and the coaches have that little closed capsule of a meeting. The quarterback and the receivers need to have a capsule meeting without the coaches so that they can say, hey, if I see him do this, hey, I might give you this read. And then the quarterback say, nah, don't do that. This is what give me this because I'm going to have to, in progression, look to my right and you'll be my third read. So I need you to, run it at 17 instead of 13. So if you're going to run a 13 out where you go 13 and come back 3, that means I'm getting it to you at a 10-yard route. But if it takes 17 and you come back 14, that gives me a little bit more time to go through my progressions. And those are the things that they have to work on without a coach. Because that's what they're going to do in the game. That's the sight adjustments that they have to make.
And one of the things Dan Campbell mentioned in his post-game press conference is Wednesday's practice, they didn't go with pads. The thinking was, we're kind of banged up right now. We need to get healthy. We're the second most injured team in the NFL right now. And it seems like he regrets it. And I can imagine there's going to be a lot of contact on Wednesday.
Here, look, this is the truth about pads. Pads can help definitely get you to a point where you work on the technique and some of the grinding things, right? But some of these efficiencies that I'm talking about, can be done in what we call in shells. That's where you
Mm-hmm.
might wear the helmet and just the shoulder pads, and you ain't trying to really get on the ground. You just wearing the shoulder pads for protection so that you can run your plays and you can go through the hole and the hole might close because you're practicing. So if you take a bang, you got your pads on. So you're not really banging. Okay. Now, if his team is soft and he feels that they need to get tougher, then offensive line and defensive line are the ones that need the pads on. You really don't need the running backs unless he's given a look in some type of 9-on-7 look. Wide receivers, DBs, really, the pads are for the defensive linemen, linebackers, offensive line, tight ends. They're the ones that's actually got to really perfect the hitting art. So it's good in some instances if you need it, and in some instances, like he said, their team is banged up. Then you have to be smart. You have to be, as a coach, you got to get your players there on Sunday. Don't matter how tough he is on Wednesday and Thursday. If you count on him to be your marquee player on Sunday, you can't beat him up and take his game out of his legs on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. It feels like we've seen them battling. We've seen them compete. I don't think this is a soft football team. I think it's a football team that just, I don't know what, it just didn't look like they belonged on Sunday. And maybe that could be a toughness, but it just feels like something was off.
You know what? They look like a team that actually had been on a bye and they came back and just started playing, but all the timing was off. It was it was just off. That's what it looked like. It was like off the timing. It's like, but again, I'm a little bit more critical because I got a different knowledge base than most.
Of course.
Okay. But I'm looking at that quarterback and how he's managing the team. You're going to always hear me talk about how the quarterback is managing the team, whether or not he's down or he's up. He has to maintain a level of poise and directive to tell them this is what we're going to do. And I don't see him being that guy. Let me say this. That was a judgment statement. I hadn't seen him display that as the guy that's the quarterback for the Detroit Lions. I hadn't seen that. He's got to find that. He got to find that. And if they're going to contend, he has to find that.
And that's one of the things Dan Campbell was saying after the game. He was getting questions about Jared Goff, and he starts it off. He doesn't put it all on Jared Goff, which is fair. It's a collective, as Dan Campbell's saying. Yeah. What you've been talking about, it has to be everyone. But then he's asked if they thought about sitting Jared. Dan Campbell says, no, I didn't. Asked about making a change at quarterback. He denies it, says, not that won't ever come up, but this is collective. You can't blame one person. And then they push just a little bit farther and they ask, can you judge your quarterback without two starters on the offensive line? And then Dan Campbell kind of went off a little bit, and I made some comments I didn't expect. Not that I disagree, but he doesn't feel like they can accurately judge them. And then a long pause. And then he admits, I feel like he needs to step up more than he has. I think he needs to help us just like everyone else. I think he needs to put a little weight on his shoulders, make some throws and do some things, but he needs help. And some of the holding calls he attributes to Jared Goff drifting too far back in the pocket. And so with those comments, it's got me wondering, was Pac-Man right when we were talking to the Bleav in Bengals guys? Adam Pac-Man Jones calls Jared Goff Andy Dalton 2.0. After that game and after Dan Campbell's comments, I kind of get it. What do you think?
Well, he definitely pointed to a perspective that when we seen the way he played on Sunday, we could identify those traits he described. Now, whether or not he's going to live his way out of that particular assessment is going to be on how well he can respond today, tomorrow, the next day. He's going to have to step up, and I'm going to tell you, in Detroit, that town itself wants a winner, right? And it's only been dealt with, a couple times where they really had competitive teams like late 80s, the 90s, and things like that in the modern time, right? So these people are really wanting a winning team. So Jared can find himself in tough company because of the simple fact, you following Matt Stafford, that even though he left was a success, they didn't actually have the success as a team. But if you looked at his stats and what he was able to do with what he was given to work with under the circumstances of being with the Lions and really not ever having a top flight free agent signed, he did all right. And now he's, I have some friends that's close to him, and they say that he's as happy as he's been in years. Now, is Jared facing any of that? Is he feeling the weight of whatever it was Matthew was feeling, that, not just comes from the coach, but comes from meeting the expectation of the fan? Is he going to react to it, or is he going to respond? Those are the things that separate the guys that become top tier from being just the quarterback. That's those extraordinary things that separate good from great. You're in the locker room with the best in the world that has ever done it. All right. But what separates and make that guy in that locker room a man's man? It's going to be what he does. He's going to prove that to the other men, that he is a man's man. And to the point that it won't be challenged. And when it's challenged, you better answer the bell.
And this is really the perfect opportunity for him to prove it. Jared Goff gets to return home to LA, face his former team. The Lions get to face their former quarterback in Matthew Stafford. This is the perfect time for him to step up and prove that he is the guy for the Detroit Lions. Do you think he can do it? And what is the conversation heading into a date with the X?
Well, I'm trying to see the trying to see the light at the end of this tunnel. Can Jared keep pace with Matthew Stafford, who's going to be going against a defense that has a secondary that's equivocating in a lot of ways, waffling around? Okay. Now, can Jared keep pace with that? So it's not, Matthew and that offense can run up the board on you so quick. Will he be able to respond? And then here comes Aaron Donald.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Hey, let me tell you. And I watched the game. He's the closest thing to Reggie White I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. And
long time. He got a great work ethic, but I just, now that he's, moving all over the line from the defensive end to the 3 technique to the 2 technique, man, shit. That's a problem.
Yeah, especially we don't know if Taylor Decker will be back. It could be him against a rookie at the left tackle, could be him against basically a rookie at the right, basically a rookie at center.
Here's how that go. Because they are moving him around, they're going to find the mix match. It don't matter who comes back. Wherever that mix match is, that's where he's going to line up the most. And that's what I would do. I'll play bully ball. Whereas I'm going to let Aaron go bully him. Now, what that's going to have is now you got to either have a back stay and help him, or you got to get a lineman to help him. So that means there's 2 men on 1. So that means that we got 1 guy free that should be getting to the ball.
And that's what we have to look forward to on Sunday, isn't it?
We got problems.
We do. So, and things on a lighter note, I suppose. Some of the fans in the drafting community, the people that are already deep in the college football, Lions already 0-6. People are talking, you got to take the edge rusher out of Oregon, Kayvon Thibodeau. When you have the first overall pick, if you do, it's way too early to be talking about that, but that's what the fans are into. So we don't know who would be the option there. You don't have to lock yourself into a quarterback if you do get that pick.
Man, listen, it's too early to even have that discussion, See, now, but again, that goes with the Lions in the history of not producing a consistent winner that the fans look to settle on a high draft pick. But a high draft pick don't bring you success. It just gives you an opportunity to get you a good player. What you're gonna do when you get Barry? What are you gonna do when you get a Lomas Brown? What are you gonna do when you get a Calvin Johnson? What are you gonna do? How are you going to build with that? That's the real issue. So it's not always about the draft pick at all. And if you know for real that there are more number 1 busts than they are number 1s that were prominent players. And I'm not even talking about Hall of Famers or Pro Bowlers or All Pros. I'm talking about number 1 draft picks that were on a team, never made it, never cracked the starting line, never really was a consistent player, and played 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's not what you expect by any number 1. You want your number 1s, they expect them to play 10.
Now that's kind of where I'm at too. It's way too early. You talk about the season all the time in quarters. We're only halfway through the second quarter. Lots of football left to be played.
Yeah. But it's a lot of interconference games too. So the Lions can't afford to lose anything, going forward. They definitely have to win this next game. Other than that, the best they would be able to do was 9-7. Last year was kind of funny because you had teams with some real funny records that got in the playoffs and stuff. And I was like, they're in the playoffs? So I'm not going to say 9-7 won't get them in, but it gets challenging.
Mm-hmm. So we just
you start relying on other teams to be the team for you to get in. And that's even crazier because now you sitting and waiting and somebody else is deciding your fate.
That's the thing. You never want someone else to decide your fate. You want to take control, grab life by the horns, be that alpha lion. And so we have to hope that they can do that later this weekend. But we'll preview that with the Rams matchup later this week on Thursday. Until then, Jerry, any pluggables you want to plug before we break it down?
Hey, listen, I just want to, tell all the Lion fans, listen, you guys keep the faith. Give them a chance. This is the first year for the teams, new coaches and stuff. They got a new system. But also, I want to say something to the Lions organization. Hey, it's football. It's just football. Don't make it more complicated than it is. It's football. All right.
On that note, you ready to break it down, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Take it away.
All right. 1, 2, 3. We believe in the Lions.